It just helps. Did you just get that message that says meeting is now live on YouTube? Okay,
I see that.
Good. Well, it's setting up, it says.
Oh, okay.
All right. Because I always have to get the URL. And there we are. Did you just get that message? Oh, I got to turn off my audio.
7-second delay so you can hit the
button. The delay is not bad. It's actually pretty good. I'm impressed with it. I mean, you get so used to obviously live TV.
Right.
And it's and then you've got streams that are just way behind.
Yeah.
Which is just, oh, dang it. My thing is, I've been having issues with the mouse. I have to get a new mouse. Okay, just give me a second here. We'll wait for Vegas. I'm sure there's already people watching live, which is just fine with me.
Hello.
But I won't tweet it out yet till Vegas is here. Well, some people subscribe to the channel, so.
No, so they get a notification.
So they get a notification.
Nice.
Yeah. Live channel. Now let me see if I can get this a little smaller. Oops, I got a damn mouse. Yeah, we'll do that instead. But most people do show up once I tweet it. But we've got 8 people watching right now. All the weirdos. Kidding, folks. It's a joke. We're waiting for Vigs. But it's easier to just get this stuff up and running now than later. And then I can let's get the tweet ready. There's Vigs.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you. How's it going, Vigs?
Awesome. Living the dream.
Just let you know we're live. So.
Oh gosh.
I got to set up already. I haven't tweeted yet, but just let you know there are the people who subscribe and here I'll tweet that. There are the folks that do subscribe and are notified when we go live. So.
It's been a hectic day in the Vigo household. So.
Really?
Looking forward to this. Well, we had hockey practice tonight at 4:45, so it was a little complicated getting everything going tonight.
Really?
Yeah, after hockey, everybody gets fired up. So even Dad. So
Donald. No, I'm kidding. That's your dad.
That's my dad.
Does Donald watch the live show now?
I think so. I think he'll be watching.
I mean, maybe he's not, because he was like logged. He would be logged into Mixler. You could see that he was logged in for the audio part.
I know he can hide in the YouTube chat.
He kind of can. Okay, there's the tweet. And a couple things on Twitter this evening. Oh man, you just tweeted it. Hopefully, I did everything live. Everything did it the right way.
Try.
Okay, let's do the audio portion here. You guys are doing all these retweeting. My phone's blowing up.
Sorry.
No, it's all good. Definitely all good. All right. Let's start the show.
Do it.
This is the GPL podcast, sponsored by Jerry Peters and First Class Mortgage. Our expertise, your peace of mind. Visit us at firstclassmortgage.com. Now, here's Jupe and Vigo. Good evening and welcome to the GPL podcast, episode number 186. Well, it's Badger Week, and when it's Badger Week, well, it's become a tradition. We always have Todd Milewski on. Todd, thanks for joining us yet again.
Hey, happy to do it. I love this week every time it comes up, Badgers and Gophers. But man, when it's like this, when we're in February and these teams are first and second in the conference, doesn't it feel a little more like there's just more of a buzz here, even if there's like no fans in the building?
Well, yeah, there is, but
a few, yeah.
The fan thing is just such a downer. I mean, it would have been a packed house at Kohl Center. I think with the Gophers resurgence this year, it would have been pretty packed at Milewski. Obviously, they've been having attendance issues the last few years, but I think it would have been so fun. But
Border Battle was always a good draw. Like they always had a good crowd for that game. I think in the last 4 or 5 years, the Wisconsin series, when they did the throwback concessions, that's one of the best crowds we've seen at Milewski in a long time.
They even had the retro scoreboard. Was that same?
Yep, that same weekend.
Yeah, that was fun. They brought back. Which team did they bring back? I know they brought back. Was it the Olympians? I can't remember.
I feel like there was a Broughton involved, but that's all I got. That doesn't really narrow it down to any particular.
well, no, I definitely remember the Broughton thing, so maybe it was that episode.
Good chance, I think.
Yeah, I think it might have been the Olympic team at that time, because I did get a photo of myself with quite a few of those, 3 of those Olympians in the Milewski elevator, which I cherish. So, well, Viggs, it was a good weekend for the Gophers this past weekend. We had Cappy on last week, and he's like, he was hoping to see a split, but if any team got the sweep, it would be Minnesota, and that's exactly what Minnesota pulled off this past weekend. A nice sweep on the road.
Yeah, I thought Minnesota answered the bell. They checked all the boxes of the things they need to do to play successful hockey. I know Ohio State is not the cream of the Big Ten this year. They're still developing some players, but I didn't think Minnesota let them in the game. Their special teams came to play. I thought they got pretty good goaltending from LaFontaine, and they played a hard forechecking game, which they need to do to be successful. They got a couple goals on the rush here and there and a couple goals on the power play, but I think it was a good growth weekend for them to prep them for what's ahead this weekend.
And Todd, on the flip side, a successful weekend for the Badgers as well.
Yeah, 6-0 on Friday against Michigan State, and then 4-1 on Saturday. I mean, 2 really different games, which is I feel like what you get out of Michigan State this year. I mean, they weren't really there on Friday, and the score showed it. They had no answer for the top 2 lines of Wisconsin, and they were just cycling for 20 and 30 seconds on end and waiting for something to happen. Basically, Saturday was different. That Michigan State was right there with them as much as they could be. Really, they were without 3 really good forwards, but the talent gap was pretty apparent throughout the whole weekend, that Wisconsin has guys that are going right now and talented guys that are on top of their game, and Michigan State doesn't seem like they really have that in their arsenal right now.
You definitely got your top guys going. I mean, Cole Caulfield, just what a weekend he had.
Yeah, well, was it 8 points, 7 points? I forget myself now, but I know. Yeah, it's 13 in his last 5 games, 10 goals in his last 10. It's everything we thought he was going to be, he's been in these last few games. Really, since it's been a progression since he came back from World Juniors. That was his first week back, obviously, when it was the Badgers and Gophers last time, with the 3 guys for the Gophers, but he's picked it up every step of the way since then, and really kind of peaking last weekend with a couple of 2-goal games. I mean, one was an empty netter on Saturday, but he's he's found it. Whatever he needed to find, he has found it these last few weeks.
Well, he just seems to be playing a more complete game too. I felt like in the past, he was kind of floating around and waiting for the game to come to him and only working the offensive zone. He definitely seems like a more complete player out there and creating his own opportunities and winning pucks and second chances. And that's something I don't think we saw last year.
That's the preview of my story for this week is there are 2 times last week, one in each game where he did work in the D zone. That one led to a Holloway goal that made it 6-0. So at that point it was, the game was out of reach, but the second night it was 1-1 in the third, and State came out with a 3-on-1 that became a 3-on-2, and Caulfield was the back checking forward first back. And he got to the guy just as the drop pass came back to him and lifted his stick up, and the puck turned over and went the other way. And it was 55 seconds into his shift. He was at a dead stop in the offensive zone, and he caught up to everyone. So that was, you put that all together, and that's what they needed to see out of him. That was his growth for this year. We all know when he's got the puck on a stick in the offensive zone, what he can do. It's the rest of the time, which is, 85, 95% of the game, that he had to be better at. And for the most part, he has been.
So Viggs, I'm looking at the standings, and there's we're always used to it being close, but there is a little bit of separation this year. The teams are more spread out. Viggs, we do have the top 4 teams all have a game in hand off the bottom 3 teams. So there's going to be separation there, even though Penn State has been playing a lot better recently. But really, it could be a 3 or 4 team race. Notre Dame, you never know what's going to happen with them. Michigan, and I think it's awesome that Minnesota and Wisconsin are there at the top. This is what this league needs: the Minnesota team and the Badgers being really good.
Yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting stretch for the Big Ten, especially when you look at the NCAA tournament implications this year and how that's all going to sort out. I think that's been a big topic nationally as the coaches start to kind of ponder where they sit and how things are going to shake out, because I don't think it's real clear what kind of guidance the coaches are going to get for the selection criteria. It's still unclear what's going to happen there. I think the NCAA is kind of dragging their feet a little bit on that. And so the only way for these teams to really solidify themselves is to beat and finish in the top 2 of the Big Ten right now. So it kind of looks like maybe just 2 Big Ten teams are going to make the tournament. And to see Minnesota and Wisconsin as the 2 is pretty exciting for fans in this area, because that's the rivalry that we want. We want to see these teams going up against each other. And I have been giving Granato a hard time for the last 5 or 6 years on what kind of roster he's been putting together. But he's got the magic dice this year, and he's pulled out the lineup that's very competitive. And I'm still not sure what kind of goaltending they have. I think in the series at Laban, it was a little bit different than I was expecting. And then the next night it kind of disappeared again. So you kind of go, is that a trend or a mirage? What's going on with the goaltending situation there? Because I think that's going to be a big key for Wisconsin down the stretch as they play teams like Minnesota and Michigan, who can really put the puck in the net.
Yeah. All it means for us, Todd, is fun. Because we need this kind of fun. Obviously, we got this COVID thing that's bringing everyone down, not playing in front of fans, but at least that, like I said, a strong Minnesota, a strong Wisconsin, a strong Michigan really helps.
Yeah, I was thinking back to, when the Big Ten started in 2013, everyone thought, it was going to be Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan as the dominant teams. And it was that first year, right? Minnesota won it and Wisconsin was right there, for a while with them and finished second. And I think Michigan was third that year. But after that, obviously the bottom fell out at Wisconsin for a few years, and Michigan was up and down, and Minnesota had, a couple more championships, but, had a couple of years where it fell off too. And now we're back to that where, you've got the big three, so to speak, that are back in the top three spots. And yeah, that's, from a big picture of the game, giving everyone more opportunities. Yeah. You like to see Penn State doing well. You like to see Ohio State doing well. Michigan State, if they can get it going again, that's great. But these are the teams that carry the water for college hockey in a lot of ways. So
it's true. It's true.
Getting them doing it well on TV, getting big numbers on TV, like we saw earlier this week come out from the Ohio State Minnesota game last week. That's what you need. You need a fan base that's intrigued by what is going on.
Well, one thing that I find interesting is that, people have been complaining, we haven't had any good teams, really in title contention, I should say. And there's been a lot of parity, which has made the league a lot of fun for us, but a lot of those teams aren't making it much, further beyond that. Last year could have been really fun because, last weekend we had no clue who was going to finish anywhere.
Right.
But maybe this league does need, a little more dominance on the top end teams just to get some clout for this league, because, you look at how many consecutive titles has the NCHC won. And we need to get a national champion in there somewhere, Todd. We need some clout going before it gets any worse.
Yeah, it would help. It helped the argument anyway. You're never going to convince some people that, the NCHC isn't the greatest thing since sliced bread, but you need a team, that's going to see it through. Minnesota had its chance, obviously, in 14, and but then the three Big Ten schools in the Frozen Four in St. Paul a few years back, and Duluth wins it anyways. Yeah, it's not easy to fly the flag for the Big Ten in a lot of ways when you're talking about a national picture. So yeah, until that happens, you've got to salute the what the other conferences are doing, I guess.
We need a breakthrough, Viggs. We really need a breakthrough.
Well, hopefully we can get to a tournament this year and see where this all goes, because I think
that's another whole deal right there.
But I think the teams at the top of the Big Ten have the top end talent. I think some of the talent in the Big Ten sometimes has been really young and has left early and really hasn't invested in being a successful college player. It's all about developing for the next step. I'm starting to get the sense that the teams right now at the top of the Big Ten, they've got players who are invested and they play the game the right way. And you look at how Minnesota and Wisconsin are playing right now, that's winning hockey. And we haven't seen that for a while consistently out of these programs. And, they've all got some senior leader type guys who can probably control the locker room and keep guys in check. And I think that's really important. I think we've seen a couple Gopher teams at least where the young guys make mistakes and you can just tell that they're not being held accountable. The seniors maybe aren't the kinds of players that have the talent and the confidence where they feel like they can speak up and be heard. I don't think that's a problem right now for Minnesota. You've got LaFontaine, who's very vocal and can get guys' attention. Scott Reedy, same way there. So you've got some guys who can get everyone's attention when things start to get off the rails.
And another thing, Viggs, is that Mr. Blake McLaughlin has woken up in 2021. Maybe not so much in 2020 at the end of the beginning of the season here, but 2021, the kid has woken up.
Well, I think one of the issues with his game is it's a game built on hard work and determination, and he creates his chances out of chaos. It's never going to be really a pretty game for him. And when he tries to do that, I think he can maybe get himself into trouble and have to play a lot more defense than he should. But when he's on his game and he's grinding and cycling pucks and getting second chances, he's a dangerous player because he does create these creative plays out of nothing. And that's how you can be a dangerous player in college hockey, because you're not usually going to get a lot of good rush scoring chances in big matchups. Well, he's kind of playing the game right now where he can consistently be a threat and put points on the score sheet.
And I have noticed that Walker on the penalty kill has been awful for other teams, Vigs. He is just aggressive out there, especially when he's attacking, the other team in their defensive zone. He's all over the place, stealing pucks, holding onto pucks, hiding the puck. He's doing excellent on the penalty kill right now.
Yeah, he's a threat out there because he's so quick, and that's really his strength. And sometimes when you're on the 5-on-5 game and you just don't have anywhere to go with your legs, so you have to try to create some plays that way. On the penalty kill, there's usually a place for you to get to. And he's very knowledgeable about how to apply pressure and how to stay in position to apply the pressure. Sometimes you'll get guys who start chasing outside the dots and things like that when they shouldn't. He's making a lot of the great decisions. And part of that's the experience that he's been able to put together. I think the Gopher penalty kill, when they lose one of their top 4 guys because they've taken a penalty, you notice a little bit of a drop off there. But when they can just roll those top 4 killers, they're very effective because they're all respecting the game. They know where to be, and they know when to take chances and when to apply pressure and when to pull back.
Well, let's talk about those special teams. We got Tim Hapke on Twitter earlier this afternoon asking Todd, the Badgers power play is really good this year. Are they still using 5 forwards on the first power play unit? And is that unit getting the majority of the power play goals?
Yes, and yes. Yeah, they've all year. They started with the unit they have now, which is Caulfield, Holloway, Ty Pelton Bice.
Terrible lineup, by the way. Yeah, that's just awful to have that.
and Linus Weissbach running the point. And so Holloway was there for 2 games. Then he was gone for Canada's World Juniors camp. They had to adjust. Threw a couple different guys through there. Brock Caulfield got a look for a while. And it didn't really get back to where they wanted it to be until January. Now they've built it back up a little bit. Did score against the Gophers, I think, in 5 tries that weekend with those units intact. But it is a lot of times the top unit is out for a minute 30 before they even think about getting off the ice. So they're getting most of the opportunities. They're getting most of the goals. I think last year was something ridiculous. Like only one of the power play goals was from the second unit for the whole season. And I think it's not quite as stark this year, but it's still the same kind of concept where they're, we saw it last week, and part of it's hard to compare, how one team plays penalty kill to another sometimes, but Michigan State was fairly passive, and so Wisconsin was basically just doing the same. They're waiting for something to develop, and they have enough talent there to make that happen, and they popped a couple of power play goals on a major in the third period on Saturday to win that one. So that was, I know they were happy to see that because last year was a struggle with even with the talent that they had. Think of who they lost. They lost Mike Kalnick, who ran the power play for 3 years, basically, Keandre Miller, and Alex Turcotte. But they've brought in this group that's a little bit more, got a little bit more grit in front of the net with Sean and Pelton Bice maybe. And obviously on the wings, you've got Holloway and Caulfield to line it up and shoot. And it's been working pretty good so far.
Yeah. And then you look on the opposite side, Vigs. Minnesota had struggled, I would say, for quite a few years. I don't believe they even had a shorthanded goal last year. And Lacombe had 2 last weekend, Biggs.
Helps to have a defenseman who can just quickly jump in the rush like that. And I think that's one of the strengths right now for Minnesota that it has over a lot of their opponents is how fleet of foot they have on the back end. They've got 4 or 5 defensemen who can all skate just as well as anybody on the ice. And it just gives them that advantage. With Lacombe, you worry a little bit because of his defensive chops.
Yes.
He can get into trouble from time to time, and he needs a partner who can back him up a little bit. But when you have guys like that who can skate, they're always going to be dangerous to jump into the rush. And I think that's been a key for Minnesota, is figuring out how to create those transition opportunities and really just green light everybody, get up in the play and try to put some pressure. And if it's not there, don't force it and get a turnover going the other way. But you notice how quickly they jump up in the rush.
And that's interesting because, this weekend, the speed limit goes up on the penalty kill. You take a chance, Wisconsin comes back the other way and you're short, even more short. They can make you pay for it, Viggs.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting this weekend. The special teams are going to be huge, and the goaltending is going to be huge. And I'm interested to see how Minnesota does against Wisconsin, because I don't think they've been really challenged on the special teams too much the last couple of weekends with OSU and ASU. I have a lot of respect for OSU and their staff and what they do, but they just don't have the talent that some of the other teams in the Big Ten have.
All right. Well, we've got more questions from Twitter, and I've seen a couple questions within the chat. But before we get to that, we need to hear from our sponsor.
Hey, fellow GPLers. This is Jerry Peters from First Class Mortgage. Interest rates are near all-time lows and property values are on the rise. Lower your interest rate and remove monthly PMI at the same time to save thousands of dollars. Or use the equity in your home for debt consolidation and home improvement. The housing market is still hot, so make sure you're prepared by getting a pre-approval letter from me before you start shopping. Mention you heard about me on the GPL podcast and receive a $300 closing cost credit. Some restrictions do apply. Call me today at 612-940-3291 or visit firstclassmortgage.com to fill out a free online application. My NMLS number is 480200. First Class Mortgages is 322842. This is not an offer to lock into an interest rate agreement under Minnesota law. First Class Mortgage is an equal housing lender.
You're right. Well, of course, we always thank Jerry for sponsoring the GPL podcast. Maybe get the right desktops up here so I can see what I'm looking at here. Let's go right to it. I see Dale Beers on Twitter a little while ago. Will Brodzinski ever become a consistent player? Always 2 steps forward, 1 step back, Viggs. Brodzinski might be in the doghouse a little bit, isn't he?
He is a little bit in the doghouse. There are some forwards who maybe get a little more rope with taking penalties. I don't think Brodzinski is one of them right now. And offensive zone penalties, bad penalties late in the game that could cost your goalie a shutout, things like that are going to show up in the coach's office, and you'll have to deal with it. I'm kind of happy to see Motzko go after a player and have some real consequences for those actions, because I think that can really hold this team back. And we've seen it the last couple of years where players do that kind of stuff and nothing happens. But he's got a shot and he's got offensive ability. If he can just raise his skating a little bit more, he's going to be a consistent player. And I think, we heard, maybe some rumors of some illness that impacted his start to his season. Now is the time when he's really got to put that in the rear view and compete all over the ice, because he does have talent. And I think Bob trusts him, but he's got to be consistent.
I'm seeing in the chat here, this one's for you, Todd. Are Caulfield and Holloway assumed gone after this year? And even another, even Eric Brever is saying, do Caulfield and Holloway finish the semester?
I think they finished the semester, yeah. I would say, leaning definitely. Well, can you lean definitely? Leaning towards gone for Caulfield, and maybe leaning slightly towards, probably like 51-49 towards going for Holloway.
Mm-hmm.
I think Caulfield's reaching the point where he's, and especially if he keeps playing like he has lately, where he's done what he can do at this level. And I'm sure Montreal would love to get him in, especially with there being, the extra regular season after the college season this year, they could get him in for, I don't know exactly how many games it is, but more of a look than you would normally get in a NHL season. Holloway, I think, could use a little bit more time just because, he's playing center now. He's probably going to be a wing with Edmonton, just from the depth that they have at center. So maybe he could use another year at wing here in college. I don't know. I feel like his game is still at a point where, yeah, he's doing a lot of good things, but it's got a ways to go to play NHL consistently. So I would, if you're putting the odds on it, I would say it's pretty good that Caulfield goes, but maybe about 50-50 for Holloway right now.
I feel like he could probably learn some lessons from Scott Reedy's game. He's a player who really wins those second chances, and Holloway's got all the physical tools to be that kind of impact player and really control possession. And I think that's something he can add to his game that's right there waiting for him. And it's just going to take time and experience, I think.
Definitely.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah.
Viggs, it's kind of funny you mentioned that. It always, when we start talk about people leaving early, it always brings me back of what Don Lucia believed. And I think he was 100% right here. He was always like, don't leave until you've dominated the current situation. Because we've seen it so many times. Players leave early. They haven't done dominant. They end up, maybe they make it to the NHL. Maybe they end up, in the AHL for a long time and don't ever really quite make it. But you look at somebody like a Cole Caulfield, Viggs, and I think he's definitely going to be ready at the end of this season.
Well, he'll get a lot of rope to continue developing at the NHL level. I mean, he's got so much skill that they're gonna put that out there and let him figure out the rest. Some of these other guys that don't quite have that high level of skill, who aren't going to be power play type players right away, you're putting a lot at risk by shortening your runway and leaving too soon. And I think that's the big thing with college hockey is you are going to have an opportunity to get some rope and develop all of your game. If a player starts taking offensive zone penalties in the AHL, he might be in the ECHL. They don't wait around for you to figure it out. There's no full year guarantees there. So they'll replace players pretty quick. So I think maybe we'll start to see some players stick around a little bit longer as they learn from that and see that, but it's hard to tell. People come to the college ranks too early and then they leave for the pro hockey too early too.
All right, this is for either one of you. From Dan Hogan earlier today. Any current recruiting battles between the Gophers and Badgers right now? Do we know of anything that's going on? Todd, do either of you jump in on that? Or do we need to bring Hammy back for this?
Yeah, it's a bit tough to kind of peek inside.
It is true
right now for a lot of reasons, that they're not at rinks. They're supposed to be at rinks anyway. We don't get that face-to-face contact with them to kind of just shoot the breeze about people. But I don't know of any specific ones that are, hotly contested right now between these two.
Yeah, it's hard because usually when you're at the games, you'll often see the players there too that are on visits.
Or at practice, right.
Yeah, or even at practice. It's like, when I saw Strobel sitting in the stands at Ritter Arena and I see Bob get off the ice, take off his skates in the penalty box and walk up and talk to him, that's a good recruiting insight moment there that you just don't get now because everything's closed off.
So that's a big, we don't know.
Yeah. Sorry. No good answer there.
And it's one of those things that, like you said, Viggs, you would have seen that if you were at practice. Todd, we talked before we came on the air that it's nice to have this Zoom thing to be able to see, and meet with coaches and things like that. But you're not at the rink. You're not seeing things. You're not around people. You're not talking to your connections as much. So it's just an odd time right now, isn't it, Todd?
Yeah, it is. And you have to be a little bit more creative in some ways that you never really thought you'd have to be. But we're all piecing it together as we go in a lot of ways. I mean, it feels like it's weird that we're a couple months in the season already and we're still trying to figure out how this all works. But hopefully by the time this pandemic's over, we'll have it figured out and then we'll do something new and different. But
all right, I got another question on Twitter from Darren Bakken. Which Gophers do you see taking advantage of the extra year of eligibility next season? I think this is going to work for both of you, for Wisconsin and Minnesota. And Minnesota, do you see anybody, Vigs? I think hockey's a little different with the upper end programs, is that you kind of have to stick to a schedule and plan ahead. I mean, if someone stays back, that could just mess up the whole line of people coming in, couldn't it?
It could. It gets really complicated as well with scholarship money too, because with the budgets impacting college athletics a lot, it's going to be difficult to come up with extra money for scholarships. I think for Minnesota, someone I'd watch maybe would be like a Brandon McManus and see if he wants to come back and stick around for another year. He's a kid who really likes college and enjoys being around, and you're not too sure about how his pro game projects for him. So he might be somebody who sticks around. Scott Reedy, he's dealt with, an injury that's popped up pretty frequently. And you'd wonder, does he want to maybe spend another year to shore that up and give him the best chance to make the Sharks? So it's hard to know. And then you have guys maybe who can get through that loophole and become a free agent as well, if they stick around that next year, because they have that, I think it's the 5 years after graduating high school. If you're not signed, you could be a free agent. That's a new thing that we would never have thought of until now.
And Todd, if you also think about it as well, you look at somebody like a Wisconsin. If you have a Caulfield leave, you have a Holloway leave, maybe having another guy who was a senior and maybe a second year senior hang around could really help and make up for, those lost bodies and all.
Yeah, everyone I've talked to about this, that's part of the big unknown, is that you can project who you think's leaving, but do you also have a Ty Emerson leave as a defenseman? So those kind of things you're going to have to patch. I mean, and Vigs knows this better than anyone, that it's not like there's a shortage of players that they have kind of waiting in the wings to come in and play here, but you do have to patch that as it goes, instead of trying to think, well, this is our roster for next year and we're not deviating from this. That's not the way it works. Obviously, you're going to have a potential, for 3 or 4 guys leaving, and then you never know who's going to want to transfer out. We saw that last year with Sean Doogie leaving and Mick Messner leaving the Badgers. I don't know if anyone would have predicted that at mid-season last year. So the picture is ever evolving, it seems like, in terms of what that next year is going to look like. And when I've asked players directly if they have plans, if they know what they're doing for next year, the seniors, they say they, at least to me, they say don't know yet, have thought about it and, are talking to coaches about it, but it doesn't sound like there's a lot of answers to that yet. And that's, part of it too is, is everything going to be back to normal by next fall? Are they going to want to come back to this again? So,
boy, that's another thing right there. Because, you mentioned Doogie there. He went to Arizona State. He's probably a really good candidate to hang around an extra season there in Arizona.
Yeah. I mean,
maybe they're playing some home games and he's around that weather a little more for one extra year.
Right. I mean, if you go there thinking you're going to have, a season where you're playing a bunch of games at home and staying at home, and then all of a sudden you're on the road for 3 and 4 weeks at a time, a few times in the season, that, that's not exactly what you signed up for. So maybe, you want to see a more regular year out of that for him next year. And when I talked to him back in the first half of the season, he didn't rule it out. He was one of those that wasn't sure, but he thought it might be, worth it for him to, play golf again and go to school and play some hockey for another year, especially because I don't think there's going to be anyone beating down his door to sign him right now. So I could totally see that happen.
Interesting. I noticed that Eric Brever just said in the chat there, Viggs, he says, we looked this up last week. Seniors who stay don't have their scholarships counts against the limit.
Right.
It might not count against the limit, but it's still a cost.
You still got to pay for it.
Yeah, right.
And as much as the Gopher hockey program is in the black every year, the athletic department is going to be in trouble. They're going to have to take out a bridge loan. I think we'll find out in the next month or two at a Regents meeting how much money the athletic department thinks they need to take out in a loan to cover the costs. Yeah, I know that they've got a Top Golf event coming to TCF Bank Stadium this summer. It's an extra rental thing that they can figure out to try to get some money. The Regents are going to be approving some alcohol licensing next week at their meeting to generate some more revenue. They're just trying to do what they can. Yeah. So I think trying to find, $40,000 or $50,000, whatever it is, to support a hockey player for another year, that's a tough discussion for Mark Coyle to have with Bob Motzko.
Yeah, we got N. Johnson in the chat. He's asking, is there any talk of more than just parents at the arena at Mariucci? I don't think it's going to change in the very few games we have left, Viggs.
No, the University of Minnesota is one of the most conservative groups out there in terms of not having any COVID issues, whether it's fans or students or what have you, staff even. So I don't think it's going to happen. I think they're begrudgingly trying to get some boosters and parents in there right now. We're in this for another couple of months, everyone. One name that I think will also be interesting about departures is Ben Myers. He's an undrafted center who older guy who could get a pro contract. And I don't know if that's where his head's at, but he will get offers at the end of the year.
Mm-hmm. Todd, how's it looking at Laban? Are they going to have any more than just parents?
No, I don't foresee that happening, especially because they're already I don't know if warring is the right word, but Dane County, which is county that Madison is in, has shut everything down basically since the start of the pandemic for sports. So if you step outside off of campus, you can't have a sporting event, but campus being state lands is governed differently and doesn't have that rule. So they're already drawing some attention for that just by having the games here, obviously. So when there are other teams like Madison Capitals aren't playing this year because they can't here in Madison, the pro soccer team had to move temporarily. So I don't think there's any interest in having that expanded at all, but beyond parents. And they didn't even have that to start the season. That came in later.
And I know you did mention the pro soccer team, and I'm just going to give you a plug. It was great coverage this past summer when we're following you. Had you covered soccer before? Maybe as a kid, as a youth.
Yeah, high school soccer.
There you go.
Not when I was in high school, but back when I was with the Cap Times, I had to cover high school soccer for a while too. After hockey season was over, but was it a nice change up for you? Oh yeah, I love doing it too, and it was nice that this year they played actually in my hometown. So I was able to go, say hello to the parents, wave, do all that kind of stuff while also, getting the mileage to go cover the game. So that turned out okay. Yeah, I mean, it's a fun team to cover. It's a little bit of the old St. Paul Saints kind of idea of the biggest thing you're there for might not be on the field necessarily. So
that's kind of the thing with the Loons. It's almost become a cult like out there, hasn't it, Viggs?
Yeah, they've done it right. They've built up that fan base, that fan section where the dark clouds are thundering and getting into the game and chanting. It's impressive to see. I'm glad that Minnesota finally has that. There was always strong U.S. national team support here, and supporting the Thunder for a long time. It was fun to see them get an MLS team, and they made a nice little run this last year. I'm sure it would have been nice to see the fans there a little more prominently.
Well, now Forward Madison has former what were they before Minnesota United? I forget what they were called.
It was the Thunder.
The Thunder, yeah, that's right. Carl Craig, former coach, is now the coach here in Madison. So
he is a colorful dude.
Yes, yes, he is. So I'm looking forward to that a little bit too.
But it's fun that you get to do some of that stuff. I mean, it's not all hockey for Todd Milewski, is it?
No. It's nice to have.
Did they have you covering any riots or anything?
I did not have to go out and cover any riots this time around. No.
Maybe next time. Well, hopefully not, but
hopefully not. Yes, I would say hopefully not. When the emails were coming in about where to get the bulletproof vest in the office, that was kind of the sobering, like, oh,
whoa,
kind of moments.
Well, we talked about, it's not going to change for fans. I mean, the funny thing is that the media is pretty well cut off. Todd's one of the lucky ones. He's an essential media, so he'll be at Mariucci this weekend. We cannot, because we're not really essential. We're just a little website. So that's just the way it is. And you know what? I'm fine with that, because pretty much every game's on TV this year. So I'm happy about that. But the only thing is we don't get to see it, Todd. We had a couple of years ago, we even had a birthday cake for you.
Yes. Yeah, that was one of the highlights of all the years coming up to Mariucci was 40th birthday cake up in the press box. Yeah.
We were talking about before we came on the air is that it's likely that, people like Viggs and I, if everything does get back to more normal next season, it'll be like a year and a half time since we had been at Mariucci, because my last Mariucci game was that Sunday game against Notre Dame in the playoffs last year. And it looks like it's going to be October. It sucks, but that's just how we just got to get through this. I mean, that's what we really need to hope. We got to get through this. And so everything can get back to normal, hopefully next season. But on top of that, Viggs, we still don't know what's going to happen this season. We don't know what's going to happen for the playoffs, the NCAA, but we know it's Big Ten, but what's happening? Do we know anything about NCAA right now, Viggs?
We know that one regional has dropped out of hosting.
So, and who is that? Who has dropped out?
Manchester.
Okay.
In the East where they're having issues.
So does this move to a central site and try to just do it all at once? Or is it, I know Loveland is one of the places I would actually kind of would love to drive out to Loveland and get put there. I think it would be fun because that area is a beautiful area. But Todd, do you have any insight?
You don't want to go to Fargo? No?
No, I don't.
Okay. The few
that's where you're going,
not
us. You're going.
Okay.
To Fargo.
Oh, all right. Well, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it, right? The few things that I've heard on this are that the NCAA committee, so the two layers here are the NCAA committee, so the 6 people that will end up picking the teams are waiting for guidance from the NCAA itself on how to, one, do selections, 2, put teams where they go. And now they have this other element to deal with finding a new regional site. And it was interesting to me today to see that the NCAA came out with their plan for the women's volleyball tournament, which happens
and hockey
and women's hockey, but specifically the volleyball tournament, because that doesn't happen until April. Mm-hmm. So they got that one done. I understand getting women's hockey planning done because that happens first. That's, coming up in a month now, or
a
month and a half.
Yep.
But yeah, they got the volleyball one lined up already too, without doing men's hockey in there. And that was a little bit of a surprise to me, but I also understand that, volleyball is a bigger tournament. They need to get that squared away. I mean, even though they're downsizing it to 48 teams, if you're going to bring everyone into one location, you got to figure that out pretty quickly.
Well, one thing, Viggs, I know Steve says in the chat is that they did get email saying that the Frozen Four were still going to be in Pittsburgh. So it looks, is that really going to happen though? Or is that just somebody in marketing just automatically sending an email?
It's hard to know. I was surprised when I saw that email too, because I'm like, I haven't really heard any confirmation that it's actually going to happen. I think one of the things with volleyball figuring it out, I don't think there's quite the provincialism in volleyball as there is in hockey. In hockey, you definitely have some entities out east, and in the West trying to put themselves in the best situation and have strong opinions about how things should go. So I have to imagine that it's harder to get a consensus in hockey. I mean, we've had debates about the format and sites of regionals for the last 20 years, and there hasn't been a lot of change. There's been a lot of conversation, but has anything really changed about the regionals in the last 15 years?
No, I mean, they couldn't figure out overtime in hockey. They couldn't come to a consensus on that. So yeah, there are no easy answers when you get that group of coaches and then administrators. Coaches have one idea, right? And then the administrators are like, I don't think that's the right way to go.
So we might be waiting another couple of weeks until we can.
But the plan is, if there is a plan, it is that it ends in Pittsburgh. They're kind of backfilling to get there, I think. But hopefully sooner rather than later. I mean, you can hear it when you ask coaches that it's kind of this exasperated, let
they
us
just want to know. They just want to know.
Something.
It was like the schedule. It's like they didn't know the schedule.
Right.
They can't plan. It's like they just want to know, and especially when you have teams like Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Michigan in the Big Ten, all have legit chances of getting into whatever form this NCAA tournament's going to be. It's just all up in the air. And like you say, we lost a regional. Does somebody, I personally think maybe let's do 3 regionals out west. I mean, let's balance it out. I mean, we've had enough Midwest in.
Is Allentown available?
Allentown, yeah.
That's a West regional.
They can have an Eastern one this year then.
Change it up.
Right.
Change it up. I'll be interested. I'd like to see a super regional where they just put up, 8 teams in one site and get down to your Frozen Four that way. It would be kind of fun to maybe see a Big Ten, NCHC, WCHA type regional. You might be a little top heavy of talent there compared to the East, but it would be a heck of a weekend to watch. And I think it'd get the fan bases going.
That would be quite the weekend. I mean, you could put like a North Dakota, a Minnesota State, a Minnesota, Wisconsin, something like that in a regional and no fans.
Yeah. That's the tough part. Yeah.
I know it's,
we might see some TV records for regionals if that's what happened, though.
Yeah, the tough part for me one of the many tough parts in this is that if you get down to 16 teams and you've got them scheduled for, okay, you're playing over these 3 days, throughout the country, what are the chances? I mean, the chances got to be pretty good that at least one of those 16 teams is going to have some issue with COVID over those 3 days, right? Because look at what's going around. Have we gone a week without having a team impacted yet this season?
Not really.
Or a game postponed or something like that? It just feels like if we get there and get it done, thank goodness. I mean, because it's a lot.
Well, you and I were talking about this earlier, Todd. We were saying let's just get to Friday afternoon. Hopefully everything happens because you just never know this season. It could be a last minute thing. The Badgers are in town. All of a sudden, oh darn, something Minnesota can't play. And all of a sudden you're like, you just never know.
I always get my stories ready to go for the next day's paper, but I'm so worried about in that interim between when it might go online and if between then and the rest of the day, is something going to happen that the games are going to be canceled and I've just wasted a story that, it's out there and you're like, can't use again.
I thought it was pretty funny that after the first game the Gophers played, the question comes to Bob, did you ever think this day was going to get here? How relieved are you that the season's under the way? And he's like, if you would have been in my office at 10 a.m., you'd be surprised that we're here. Cause I was crossing my fingers hoping we were going to get off without a hitch. Cause it sounded like, maybe something was up in the air at the start of the season for how things were going to go for Minnesota. So,
and the interesting
every day's
thing
a
is,
gift.
Yeah. And the interesting thing is that media availability today, Mr. Robbie Stucker just flat out said, hey, how you been doing with the testing and everything this year? He goes, well, I haven't had a test because I haven't had a test yet because I had it and I have to go 90 days after. I was like, he just kind of outed himself having COVID. And that was kind of the first real official one we've heard on the Minnesota side, Viggs.
Yeah, other than the coach, everyone's been pretty mum about who's had it so far for Minnesota. There's been some rumors of a couple of guys, but no one's really come out and said, I've had it until Robbie today. So I like a little bit of transparency with this stuff. It'd be interesting to know how things are going. I just watched the HBO Real Sports show last week where they talked about the long haulers, about athletes who've gotten COVID and have long-term fatigue effects, chest pain,
heart problems,
lung scarring, heart problems. And these are athletes. There's a player in the WNBA who is a very successful young player who isn't allowed to shoot free throws. And we see that with Marco Rossi right now at the Wild. He's obviously got some long-term effects from COVID, and that could pop up at any time.
And that's the thing, it's even if it hits 1 out of a million people, one of those 1 out of a million people could be someone that is, on a sports team and could have really, really bad issues by continuing to try being an athlete out of this.
Okay, enough Debbie Downer stuff, guys. We got a series this weekend. Viggs, thoughts right off the top of the head. This is going to be fun. It's going to be fun.
It's going to be fun. I don't think we're going to see low-scoring games. I've been thinking in my head that if LaFontaine were to have an amazing weekend, it would boost his Hobie credentials. If he can show up against Wisconsin and just play lights out, I think it puts him in a good spot nationally for that award. So something to think about there. I think the key for Minnesota to give that to him is to stay out of the box. As successful as the Gopher penalty kill has been this season, I don't think you want to keep testing yourself against Wisconsin's power play. They've just got too many shooters who are so dangerous that eventually it's kind of like playing Russian roulette. I think they gave them 5 bullets or 5 chances in the last series. Don't give them many more this weekend. I think that's going to be key. I don't think Wisconsin's got the goaltending to pull off a sweep.
Hold on, Minnesota. But they did last time.
They did the first night. The second night wasn't as good. And I thought the first night, if Minnesota was a little more determined, hunting rebounds and hunting pucks, I think they might have been able to get some easy goals that way, greasy goals that way. And they just didn't have that determination. It was more there the next night. So I think it's going to be a mindset thing, but I'm thinking split this weekend.
Ooh, split. I don't think that's a bad call. All right, Todd, we were just talking. Your goaltending was very good, especially, like I said, in that first game earlier this season when they met at Le Bon. But the thing is, your big boys have really stepped up now.
Well, and like Vig said, with LaFontaine having a chance to boost his Hobie candidacy, I think
against another Hobie candidate,
right? Caulfield could do the same.
Yep.
This weekend.
Is he nominated for the award?
He is now. Yes, it took a little while, but yes, he'll be part of it. So if he can put in a couple against the second best statistical defense in the country, that means a little bit more than scoring against Michigan State or Arizona State, right? And especially in games that are going to be, they may be on the plus channel, but they're usually pretty widely viewed.
Yes.
Border battle games, right? So, having said that, you mentioned goaltending, and starting last week, they committed to a rotation where it seems like it's going to be Beydoun the first night, Rowe the second night, at least for a little while here, because Granato said that he wanted to do that, but every time, like what happened against Minnesota, Beydoun had a great first game, felt like he had to go back with him the second game, didn't have it wasn't as sharp, wasn't as focused maybe. And at Penn State, he gave Rowe the first start, had a great game, felt like he had to go back with him. He didn't have a good second game. So he like locked himself into this, like saying, no matter what happens Friday night, I'm going with the other guy Saturday night. And he stayed with it last week. So that's what he says is going to happen again this week. And going forward, for how long, I don't know, but that's an interesting way of doing it.
And he's going to change his mind.
Well, right. At some point, yeah, it's probably going to, have to change. But I mean, I look back to, what Denver did back in the mid 2000s, right? I mean, when they had, was it Fisher and Menino going back-to-back nights and won the national championship.
Those guys were nightmares.
And yeah, I mean, and they played it that way until the Frozen Four, if I remember it right. Like where Guaz was faithful about one guy got one night, the other guy got the next night, even in the regionals. And so it can work. You've got to have the right guys with the right mentality, not to feel slighted by not getting both of the starts. And it seems like these guys, Beydoun and Rowe, are okay with it. It's hard to get in their heads though and know for sure, right? We'll see over time, but I think that might be a decent alternative for them, because they've had stretches where coming back with the same guy 2 nights in a row hasn't been a great idea for them, and it seems like it's a good idea going into the second game, but then it turns out to blow up. So I think this is worth a try now for them, this rotation.
So what's your prediction?
So I'm going to call split. I'm going to call Badgers first night, go for second night.
What are you thinking for over-unders for this weekend? What kind of
goals scored?
Yeah. Just total.
18.
Yeah, I was going to say the number that popped in my head was 17.
5-4.
Yeah, it was like so. Brian Posick gave me this stat earlier in the week that Badgers have scored 4 or more in 6 straight games. And we looked it up. They haven't done that since 99-2000 Ryan Precht Heatley year, when they won the WCHA and came a game short of the Frozen Four. And it's, it's, as you guys probably saw a couple of weeks ago, it's one thing to do that against Arizona State. It's another thing to do that against Minnesota. So we'll, I guess maybe I'd be surprised if they score 4 in both games this weekend.
Watch, it's a defensive struggle. Oh,
yeah, right.
Well, the funny thing is, Viggs, you could hear on the broadcast with the Gophers last weekend, a kid saying on the Ohio State side, this isn't Arizona State. It's a little different. They still put up 5 on them both nights, and now they're leading the country in total offense. And they're doing pretty well on the defensive side too, Viggs.
Yeah, you look at the goal differential for Minnesota, it's pretty stark. Putting 20 up against Arizona State's a pretty good feat. Putting 10 up against ASU is a pretty good feat. But you look back at that Notre Dame weekend, it was a struggle. And I think it's going to be more of a struggle this weekend. I think we could see, a 3-1 type game, a 4-1 type game, maybe an empty netter at the end. I think this is going to be a tighter weekend than we've seen in the past. I think both teams know there's a lot at stake, and I think both teams are playing more the right way. So there's going to be less freewheeling open hockey that we have seen a little bit in the past with these two teams.
Nope. It's going to be wide open. It's going to be fun. It's going to be fast. It's going to be Gopher sweep, baby. Shocking that I would pick a Gopher sweep because
it is shocking. I was surprised. Were you surprised, Todd?
Yeah, I almost fell off my chair here.
My shocked face.
Yeah.
Well, the funny thing is, if there's a split, we're still in the same position, league wise, points wise. If Badgers come in and sweep, it's on, because then they'd be up by a point. A Minnesota sweep, and then they put some 11 points between the two. It's just all over the place, with these 3-point games now compared to 2-point in the old days. It's wow. It could be anywhere, Viggs.
Could be anywhere. This will be a big measuring stick to see who's going to be in the driver's seat down the stretch.
It will be. And we still have Michigan kind of lurking right there, and you never know what's going to happen leading up to that. When does do you guys play Michigan again? Or have you all done?
After this weekend, the Badgers are at Michigan next weekend. So this 2 weeks is kind of the deciding period of whether they're in the race for Big Ten title, and probably also whether they're in NCAA position too, because
obviously they take that 2-week break, and it ends right before they play you. So a lot at stake for the Badgers these next couple of weeks, and
it's
not
awesome. Table stakes this weekend. It's not table stakes because you're not just playing for what's at stake that night. Right. You're playing for the season. You can write an extra check if you need to go into this weekend, because there's Hobie considerations, there are NCAA considerations, there's Big Ten title considerations. It's a big one.
Exactly.
Let's
go. Let's go. Well, Todd, thanks for being on with us again.
Hey, anytime you guys want me on.
Well, only during the Badger series.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's not going to be a weekend when you guys are playing Notre Dame or something like that. But hey.
You want to come on next week then?
I think we might have a big roundtable at the end of the year. Cappy wants to be on our Big Ten tournament show. Maybe we get you. Maybe we could reach out a little bit.
Absolutely. I mean,
that would be fun. Viggs, are you working on anything recently?
I'm working on distance learning with my kids. So we're getting there.
I shouldn't have mentioned it because, boy, that is just a handful. Todd, what do you got coming this week? You kind of teased it a little bit, and then
yes, on the distance learning thing, we just learned that the district my wife teaches in and our kids go to is off tomorrow for a snow day, virtual snow day. They're all virtual still. It's still a snow day.
So they're not schooling tomorrow?
Correct.
Back in my day, we would have gone to school.
The thing
that's weird.
They don't even need to leave the house, right? They're
That's weird.
I thought this was the answer for snow days. This was the end of snow days, was the start of virtual learning, but I guess not.
Who knows?
Anyway, yes. So we also have the border battle on the women's side as well this weekend at Ritter, which is another reason why it kind of stinks that there's no fans, because I know there would be some Badger fans that would come up for, having been able to hit both of them. But then I'm also kind of upset that the women's game on Friday starts at 6:00 and the men's game starts at 7:00. Why?
Yeah, there's no reason to do that. They should separate it, because then you'd be covering both easily.
Help me out here, right?
Well, you can go watch like the first part of the first period,
the first 10 minutes, and then it can't even go through the tunnel though. That's the thing. You can't even just go like through the Zamboni tunnel. You got to go all the way back around the building, and
Really? Man, that sucks. Because I love that.
They obviously don't want anyone at ice.
They don't want anyone downstairs. So, definitely. Yeah, I understand that, because that is such a convenient thing. And it's the same thing with LeBon and the Kohl Center too. You just go through, go underneath, and you're there. And Viggs, you and I've done it. Before Gopher games, there's a lot of times women's games, we'll head down to the Zamboni tunnel, stand there and watch some games. Sometimes go up over to the press box and just enjoy some hockey. And can't even do that. You have to go outside and be cold now. That's how it is. That's how it is. Well, that's going to do it for this week's GPL podcast. Thank Todd for coming on with us. And boy, it's going to be a fun weekend. But, we'll be back next week to recap the Badger series and preview the revenge at Notre Dame. For those of you currently watching live, we'll have a little bit of overtime coming up next. For the rest of you, we'll see you next week. Thanks for listening. And Viggs has already left to get the beverage of the week.
All right.
I know. Here he comes. Okay. Viggs, before you show it to us, you got to start talking first so we get the main camera up so they can all see.
Well, with it being a historic Badger Gopher weekend, I went with a red and black beer. This is Surly Darkness, aged in bourbon barrel with vanilla beans, cinnamon, chilies, and chocolate. It's a lovely one.
Cool,
and I survived a day of distance learning, so
it's a cool looking can and container.
Very cool. Yeah.
It's like a box. It's a matte black too, isn't it?
Yeah.
Wow.
Look at this thing. This thing's fancy.
Man, it looks like syrup too. Is that like Guinness Dark?
It's a thick black imperial stout.
So it's a can and it has a box with it.
Yep, it's got a box.
Is that like the old days when CDs had the CD case and then had to come with the giant box so you couldn't
you could steal it
coat or whatever. Yeah.
Oh boy, we just aged ourselves right there.
I know.
Just got to make it special.
I need to one of these days, take a Thursday, Friday off and do a podcast Wednesday night and break out the old whiskey. It'll be fun.
Yeah.
I did add to my puck collection today though. Rob Scheel got me a game used puck from this season.
What a guy.
100th anniversary. Let me grab it.
Nice.
We've had a lot of discussion on memorabilia this week.
So it's
on
kind of nice.
Gophers Twitter because the jerseys came out this week for the 100th season. And some people were disappointed because college hockey jerseys are very difficult to do well. And we've had some puck discussion. So I want to see what the real stuff looks like here.
Well, here is the puck. Can you see it? It's nice.
Yep.
It's got marks. It's an official game puck. It's not of one of those vanity pucks. This is game used. It was actually used in the Notre Dame game, or one of the Notre Dame games. So it's got some marks on it. And but yeah, official Big Ten, official puck, game played. I love it. I just like that. Since I'm not there this season and I won't be there at all, it's nice to be able to get an official puck from 100th Stevenson of Gopher Hockey. So that was nice. He was bored. He's like, I got to get out of my house. I'm going to come over to your house out in the middle of nowhere. And he brought it out today. So it was very nice of Rob to do that. So very cool. Very cool. So I don't think we're going to be breaking any records this week, guys, because overtime. I was telling Todd before you came on, Biggs, we went an hour and 20 minutes of overtime last week.
That's going to be untouchable.
Well, we almost went an hour last time here.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's close to that, yeah.
But I'm like, Gabby's like, I'm up late. And I'm like going, dude, it's almost 1 a.m.
He's like, I'm in Florida. I don't care.
Yeah.
Go out in the sunshine, the warmth, staying at his dad's condo or something like that. So
Johnson, they're not selling game pucks now. This is Rob Scheel actually works the stats crew at the hockey game. So he's at Mariucci and he was able to get this for me. So that was very nice. He says like it was in the game. It was either popped out or just got replaced or something like that. And that's why I love it. You mentioned the jersey thing there, Viggs. It's hard to do jerseys, but when they do the cross Gophers and they put the 100 emblem on both shoulders when it's clearly right here, I don't get how you mess that up. I just don't understand how you do that.
It's Fanatics, they're the partner now for Gopher apparel stuff. And there's just not a lot of attention to detail on that kind of thing.
Can you get Authentics at Wisconsin? Or are they authentic, or at least the jersey's good?
From what I've seen, yeah. I mean, they're pretty faithful to what the actual jersey looks like. So, but yeah, the University Bookstore, Bucky's Locker Room conglomerate, whatever,
Yeah.
it's all run by the same thing. I think it's Goldie's Locker Room, so or whatever that was or is. They sell them there. They sell them right in the Kohl Center. So, but I don't think you can get like the authentic numbering lettering.
Yeah,
That's
always been problematic. But
Right.
I mean, hey, and the thing is, I don't even think a lot of people would care if they were official authentics. They just want them to look like the jerseys being used.
So the problem is that the patches aren't in the same place as on
they have two
game
patches.
ones?
They put two patches like up here,
Yeah.
right here. Whereas the 100th anniversary patch is right here, and there's one of them, not two of them. I don't know how you mess that up. It's just
Somebody got the wrong specs and went with it, and
Yep.
off you go.
I think that's what it is, because you look at the promo picture that someone sent me. That's how it looks. It's got the two shoulder patches on there. You know, the Big Ten logo is kind of like right over the G, more towards the inside.
Can you guys see my screen here?
Yeah.
So yeah, here's. Oops, sorry, my.
Except that doesn't have a Nike swoosh either.
Well, it's not Nike, so they can't.
Yeah.
But you see, you got Big Ten logo. That's in the right place here. Gophers. It's color. I mean, but then they've got. If you look at patch here and a patch on the shoulder. Where if you look at this, it's only one spot right here. And it's like, it looks like the collar. It's a V collar too, and this is not a V collar.
Yeah. Well,
So
that's a Nike thing. That's their.
Yeah. So, but
pattern,
the thing
right?
is, maybe they can't have the Nike swoosh, but just try to get as close as you can. And I know Vintage Minnesota Hockey, our former sponsor, he's going to come up with something, and it's got to be way better than this, Biggs.
Yeah, he said he's working on it, so it'll be there eventually. If you want one that looks more real.
But the thing is, Todd, it's been like this for decades. Some jerseys have been great. Some of them have been great duplicates. And then some years it's like they have the M wrong. It's like, how do you mess that up?
Yeah.
I mean, I got this jersey over in the corner. This is from early 90s when there was still like the mesh, the mesh.
Yeah.
So this is early 90s, late 80s. And it's a replica, but it looks exactly like what they were wearing.
Yeah, the jerseys 25, 30 years ago weren't very high tech.
They weren't.
Well, I found out last year, the year before that. So Wisconsin's an Under Armour school, but Under Armour doesn't actually make
a lot of
hockey
times. Yep.
sweaters, and so they have to farm it out to someone who makes them and puts the Under Armour logo on them, which.
Yeah, it makes sense. That's pretty common.
Pretty sure the Gophers have the same deal. Like, I don't think it's Nike or anyone with Nike making the unis. I think they do some of the design stuff for them.
Yeah.
But they're outsourced to another company to actually construct the jersey. And I think that's one of the issues why, you don't see them in stores, because it's not a big company.
A limited run. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they make the run for the team. That's probably it. Yeah.
I know there's some jersey issues with the program itself, like just like having enough jerseys for everybody and holding on to them. Because when the players leave the program, they have an option to buy the jersey and keep it.
Yeah.
And so some guys do that and they take them with them, and then they're short for future years. It's why some jerseys disappear. And I know the U does like a warehouse sale, and they had to cancel it last year. But I think they'll probably try to have one if they can this late summer, early fall, and they'll sell jerseys. So if people are looking for them, you can actually get the game worn jerseys when they sell them there.
And it was a couple of years ago. We had somebody at GPL know one of the marketing people who were handling the jersey order. This was back for the last season of the WCHA that Minnesota and Wisconsin were in there. When they did their order for that season, they ordered like 30 extra jerseys as almost like a test to see if they could sell them. And some of us were able to get our hands on those for cost. And boy, I've got a road Minnesota jersey built like a tank. It's got the WCHA logo on, embroidered on it. Obviously no numbers or names or anything, because that's how they get them. They get them playing. They already had the logo on it. And it's a beautiful jersey. And they made like 5 or 10 of those, 10 of the home whites, and then they made like something. They made more of the Gophers, cross design that they did. And they ended up having some left, gave it to the bookstore. Bookstore sold them all. They just mark them up $100.
Yeah.
They could make a huge profit out of the stuff. But like you said, it's all about getting this stuff. And they just it's kind of tied their hands. But if somebody really pushed it and said, hey, we're going to spend this money, give us 500 jerseys, a company's going to do it. You just got to have the administration that has the balls enough to say, hey, we're going to spend this kind of money up front and know that we're going to make, $100,000 off of these things if we sell like 1,000 jerseys. Because people they want authentics, or at least they want authentics because the replicas have been so crappy.
Well, it's not going to solve a $43 million budget hole, but it might get them just as much as the alcohol sponsorship. So maybe worth pursuing.
And the thing is, they want to make the fans happy. It's not that hard. It's not that hard.
It's hard.
Oh,
Connor, come on now. It's hard.
It's not hard to figure out that the jersey is not the same as the one they're wearing. One patch on the shoulder. It's actually cheaper to have one patch than 2 patches.
We got all these cord cutters.
No, wait a minute.
Watch the games.
Is that a marketing class? I never took marketing. So one patch. Okay.
And the funny thing is the hockey staff, they roll their eyes because they know that it's just ridiculous. They know there's huge demand. They know it's like, how dumb can you be? But there's nothing they can do about it. It's all people up higher, financial decisions. It's just completely out of their hands. So it sucks. So I don't think I've gotten another jersey since that jersey. I just think all the jerseys they've had have been kind of crappy.
This beer's pretty good.
My water's empty.
Yeah.
Or it is now.
Wisconsin's having a Twitter contest to pick the fans' favorite jerseys over the years, and there
hasn't been that many
wildly different ones, but just the subtly different ones of. So for years they had the outline letters. So it was the letters, and then there was an outline around them, and the shoulders coloring was a little bit different between the red and the white. And people love those because those the ones that they won in 06 with. And so, you've got the connection to all those guys. But then Under Armour came in. Well, I think between those, they had Reeboks that were, or is it CCM? I don't remember. But no one really liked those because they changed the lettering. And it looked like the Red Wings, basically the style of the coloring and the design was the Red Wings, except it just said Wisconsin across it and some font that no one really cared for. But then people, I think, generally like the Under Armour ones because the Under Armour united the entire athletic department with font used on all the jerseys because before it had been, pick your own for your own team, basically. So they united that. So the current white, the brackets they did a red bracket and the white bracket and went through all of them, including the crazy giant Bucky one was in the white bracket, which I believe lost in the first round. Thank goodness, because that thing was hideous. Oh boy. But it's like the new ones is actually like winning a lot of these contests that they have, which I was surprised by. I thought everyone would go towards, throwbacks or the alternate jerseys, but no, it's the ones that they wear every night that people are voting for.
Yeah, I think is one thing that's frustrating too is if you looked at the North Dakota jerseys over the years, their replicas have always been really good.
Mm.
And yeah, that's why you see every arena somebody's wearing a Sioux jersey.
Got to keep that trademark.
Mm-hmm.
well, that too. But I'm saying it's just like whoever they're, but it's a different when you're a Big Ten school because you tend to get contracts for entire athletic programs, and it's a little different when you guys are in like North Dakota who can kind of do whatever they want. So.
Trying to find that picture of the giant Bucky just to make sure everyone knows which one I'm talking about here.
Oh,
come on! Oh, there it is.
I'm trying to find this poll bracket.
Right. That's
the
man.
One. That was a cartoon. That's a cartoon.
Yeah. So it wasn't exactly like this, but that was the design on it. I think the coloring on the sleeves was a little bit different, but yeah. And Jess Myers has one, like a game worn one.
I think I've seen him.
Shows it to me every time I bring it up. Yep.
And it's just awful quality mesh, but like not thin mesh, like thick, uncomfortable mesh that when it gets sweaty, I'm sure it's just like a couple extra pounds and very difficult.
No, it can't be fun. No.
I'm just glad we've moved past the dazzle fabric era.
I've got one of those.
Jerseys.
I got one of those gold ones, Vigs.
Those CC jerseys, the black ones with the green eyes on the tiger. The dazzle jerseys were.
It's like a bedazzle. Like they should have like the gem like stapled in there.
They're gonna come back eventually, Vigs. You just know they will.
I'm just hoping by the time my daughter's in high school that sweatpants and baggy jeans and crisscross are back in style.
Now, wasn't that famous 2007 Final Five final between North Dakota and Minnesota? All the shiny jerseys, shiny green and shiny gold. It may have been. I personally, as a photographer, I always loved when, at the X, North Dakota wearing their greens, Gophers wearing their golds. It was just such a great color contrast for the nerd photographer in me. Loved it.
I have my 2009 WCHA media guide here, and that's, I believe, that's a North Dakota. I don't know if those are dazzle ones.
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
I'd have to. I'd have to check if that year was that. Why?
I tell you, this book comes in handier than you would ever imagine.
Really?
I mean, yeah. I mean, it's going back to like trying to find some standings out of the 60s or 70s. It's all in here. It's great.
Yeah.
It's better than going to your Google Drive and tracking down your Tableau standings that you have.
Yeah, I don't have all of that in this one, but
it's kind of weird. We're not going to be able to do any attendance stuff.
I know. I was thinking about that a couple of weeks ago.
What are you guys going to do?
Todd was one of the guys who inspired me to get scan data and all that stuff from the U, because he's done such a great job over the years at Wisconsin tracking everything. You're inspiring.
Well, thanks. Yeah, I try to be inspiring for someone.
I tried to do like all the Big Ten or all the big hockey programs and request scan ticket data just to kind of look at it and see if it was worth doing a story, like comparing North Dakota and Duluth and St. Cloud and Minnesota State. And it was interesting, but not, shocking.
Yeah.
But it was kind of fun to do. And all the schools were very cooperative, much more cooperative than when I was trying to track down every college hockey coaching contract in the country.
Oh, yeah.
Boy, okay, so I'm looking at those 2007 photos. Minnesota is not shiny. I believe North Dakota is.
All right.
Yeah, if I'm just kind of flipping through photos. It's hard. Well, it's hard to tell all the time when you're with photos. It's like, is that shiny or is that? Let me see. Does that look shiny? I mean,
no, they had shinier than that.
I don't know.
Yeah, I remember back around 96, 97,
Yeah.
That dazzle black fabric was everywhere. I remember seeing it in lots of high school hockey games. It's like, ooh, you got the Gemini jerseys.
Yeah. By the way, this is me missing the goal, by the way.
Yeah.
That's Lee was right in front of me, right as Blake Wheeler's getting up and tried to celebrate. And then, I completely missed it. There is Wheeler going across the ice. I got that one, but I completely missed it. Yeah. What can you do? That one's not bad. I like that shot, but.
Yep.
Boy, where's my share? I would stop sharing. There we go. Yeah, it kind of, maybe it wasn't full shiny, but it was kind of shiny. Yeah.
There's always a little bit of shine to those, I think.
Yeah, you're probably right. But Minnesota wasn't, though. But I've got the gold shiny one somewhere for Gopher jerseys.
Casey Hankinson era.
Did you notice in chat that Mote was saying, hey, you like those jerseys? I'm like going, not the Casey Hankinson jerseys, I hope. He did admit to it on the air. That was his design. He was interviewed by Frank and Wally. And he said, yep, that was my idea. We all make mistakes type of thing. It was bad. I really hate when schools use non-school colors.
Yeah.
It's always bugged me. When I see the Gophers football team coming out in all gray.
Yeah.
It looks,
anthracite.
Yeah, whatever. It's great. But and then now with those gold the helmets, it looks great, but it just bothers me. I'm like, these aren't school colors.
I like the chrome. Back when Tony Dungy was playing, they had the gold helmets, and this.
Yeah, I love the chrome helmets. I think that is cool. I'm just saying the anthracite full uniform.
Yeah,
that bothers me. When they did wear, when they wear their all maroon football with the chrome helmets, I think that looks really nice.
I agree. I think Wisconsin, they can only go classic for football. Every time they try to do something crazy.
They tried a couple of years ago and it was not good. And in fact, I think it was the Gary Anderson years, which were, kind of a disaster on many fronts, but they reversed the helmets for a couple of games. They had a red helmet with the white W, which was like, no. No. I mean, if you're going to do something, don't just flip it around. I mean, do something different. But that's not their style either. So
I can see them going like a white out, like a white helmet with like a white W with like a little red outline to it or something. I could see a white out jersey look for them being good.
I don't know. I mean, think about it. What was it in the Leopold era, early 2000s? They went on the road and they wore maroon helmets one time for Gophers. I believe it was at St. Cloud. So they were all maroon. And it didn't go over well. I think they lost. They never wore maroon helmets again. So there's probably there's Gopher maroon helmets out there probably in somebody's basement. Gathering dust.
A point, I think mid 90s is when I have it in my head. Mid 90s, so like maybe a couple of years in the mid 90s where Wisconsin wore white helmets at home. And just not worth it.
Oh boy.
Sorry, Brever. It's not a good look. He posted it in the YouTube chat.
All right, I'm gonna click the link. Let's see what's happening.
I don't always click the links in there, but this one I trust.
What's wrong? What's with the white jersey has some kind of design on it too? It's got
a little pattern to it.
It's like a little pattern in the white. Yeah,
that's been a thing now for jerseys. Like Minnesota, they've got like a pattern. Somebody I played college football with actually works for Nike, and he came up with the pattern for Minnesota.
Oh yeah,
like with the compass and it's kind of got like the pattern elevation gradations in it. So he thought that was pretty cool, and it's neat. He's done some really cool stuff where he'll dig into like a school's history and look at the history of the school and incorporate it somehow very subtly into the jersey, whether it's a pattern or it's a phrase in the collar or something. He's a cool guy.
I don't think the helmets are that bad, but
yeah, I just didn't,
But yeah, look at a Penn State.
Yeah.
Playing. And then Ohio State was doing the same thing. They never changed. And then all of a sudden, a couple of years ago, all of a sudden they wore their black or something like that.
Right.
And it was just weird. And so I'm just not big on non-school colors.
And I think that,
could you imagine if the Badgers came out in all black?
Yeah, well, I think Adidas was a lot more willing to go into different things than Under Armour has been. I think Under Armour came to them and said, look, you're a traditional school. You should have traditional jerseys. Don't go crazy with, extra things. Now, what they've done with basketball in the last couple of years has been unusual, though. They have these fake throwback. Yeah, that was a supposed throwback for the 150th year of college football. Yeah, and you see Northwestern has essentially the same jersey.
Yep,
because they're an Under Armour too.
I remember Iowa had a jersey like this too.
Whew.
Yeah, I don't remember it, but yeah, it surprises me how many people are deeply offended by these things. It's not just a surface level reaction. It's
it's more about the kids. They're just trying to make the kids happy. Kids see that they're wearing 50 different combinations at Oregon, and they want Oregon's something like that
off the deep end. And
yes,
I do really like the Gopher 100th anniversary look this year, though. I think they did well.
The gold, the hockey pants or breezers. I always call them breezers, but
breezers.
That's a Minnesota thing, I think. But they're just shells, aren't they, Viggs?
Yeah, it's just a cover that they put over. That's why the color looks a little worse as the season goes on, because it's just kind of a thinner material that they pull up over. It's not quite the old Cooperalls, if anybody remembers those. This is like a girdle that you wore, and then you could wear whatever, pants or the actual Cooperall leg all the way down pants.
No, I
true
do
hockey pants.
I do love the outfit this year. They only went back to the regular jerseys once at home after they lost. But they're back to those, and I've heard people go, "Oh, what's with the gold?" I'm like, I've embraced it pretty well. I like it. And and I would actually I think it would be fun to see more color on color weekends in college hockey. I mean, you could easily have color. I mean, the Gophers could go to Madison and wear their golds against the Reds.
What did Arizona State wear when they were at you guys? I don't remember, because they had I think they wore 3 different in their 4 games here. They wore 3 different sweaters or the whole combination things.
I know they did a couple different ones, but I can't recall it off the top of my head. But I think one of them was a gray and one was a black, and
because Wisconsin wore their Reds for one of the games, so Arizona State could wear. I don't know if they call it their home, but a lighter color.
I think I mentioned this before, but Viggs, we had Reds for our Roops jerseys, and one time we played a team that was all green, and it looked great out there until we found out one of our guys is red green colorblind.
Yeah, it's just as we were talking about color on color. Yeah, just as we were talking about color on color, I was like, oh, don't forget about the colorblind people out there. It's I mean, you don't think about it until you know someone who's vocal about it. But it matters. I'm sure there's somebody who's colorblind in Minnesota, Wisconsin locker room. It's just, it happens. But
I'm looking up some of the Arizona State pictures here, see if there's anything good from the U.
The only thing about the current Gopher jerseys is the numbers are a little hard to see. You have to be a little more adept at seeing the skating style of certain guys and just recognizing the size of players and getting familiar with the line combinations. Because they're a little hard to pick up. The outline is just a little too thin, I think, against the white. I obviously haven't seen it in person, so maybe it looks a little different, but
It looks like they mostly, the game, at least the last two games they played, Arizona State was wearing their mostly gray jerseys with the maroon arms, is what I see on the U photos. I'd have to go back to the earlier season.
they should probably get rid of those after giving up 20 goals. Just a thought.
You're done with Arizona State, aren't you?
Correct. All
That's
done.
what I thought. Yeah.
Have you done availability with ASU this year?
I don't think I have live with them. I watched one on replay, and then I had I talked to Powers and Doogie separately that first time they were here.
This is a tough year for them.
Yeah.
I just can't imagine what it's like to just live.
And then I saw today that they've got the national team coming in, I think, this weekend, and Powers can't be there because his whole family's got COVID and he hasn't tested positive. But I mean,
can't take the chance.
Not
kind
gonna
of thing.
do it. Yeah, right.
Oh, that's got to be tough. It's good that they got a game at home.
Yeah, right. And that was
you know?
the nice thing is that they were able to have something for that whole time being on the road. But hard to imagine that lifestyle for over a whole season.
It's tough.
They got the Waste Management golf tournament in Arizona this weekend too.
That's right. Yeah,
good time to be home.
So the first time they played here, it was when Wisconsin had their 4 guys out with COVID. And then the second time was when they had a couple of guys out with COVID and an injury, and their goalie had mono, and it's already sent him home. And it was like, at that point is when you really start feeling bad for them, that they went this whole time without having any major issues like that. And then it just all collapsed on them.
Well, how about the Wild there, Viggs?
Oh yeah. I mean, they've had their blow up now. They've got injuries and then 6 players with COVID. I think it's interesting. The NHL has a COVID list. Like, they're pretty transparent about it, which I appreciate.
Which means we're definitely going to get LaPantha on the games this weekend.
Yep. Sorry, Charlie.
I think Charlie does a great job, but it will be LaPantha.
Yeah.
But were those conflicts, Frog Sports, they're going to the plus, but do they need to go to the plus now with the Wild not
being
playing?
canceled?
No, it's a good question.
I mean, probably not.
What I know, because they moved them for T-Wolves and Wild, but I'm guessing one of those has got to be they were moved for the Wild.
Yeah, I'm not up to date on the Timberwolves schedule, even with their top rookie. I'm still not a bouncy ball guy.
No.
Sorry, I can't do it. I see my kid shooting hoops on the little mini hoop around here, and I go, can I just get a hockey puck?
No. Here's the thing: I like playing basketball. I like shooting, playing around. It's just I can't watch it because when you play with your buddies or something like that,
you
it's
pass.
not a whistle. Yeah,
you don't go ISO. You don't go ISO. Clear everybody out. Get out of here.
Yeah, it's just fun because they take you. There's no fouls. You just play. And, so I don't mind playing basketball. It's just then you start to watch it. And it's like, oh, geez.
You must play with different people than I've played with. There's a lot of fouls being called in the games I played. Maybe it's just because I'm a football hockey guy and I've got that forearm that just goes right in the back and try to use my muscle and create some space. Because when I go to the hoop, there's definitely a hook and then a layup thing going on. So it's the only way to play.
And it also helps that you're a giant, big. So.
I'm not a giant for basketball, but I'm pretty big. So
let me see.
I once played a pickup basketball game with a guy who's a left tackle from Iowa State, and we were both, I was in my marathon shape at that point, and we were both just running, and we'd just run to each post, and he'd go on one and I'd go on the other, and we'd be like, "All right, good luck, other team," because he was like 6'6", 310. And
So I'm looking here. I'm thinking maybe that I show the Wild game they were supposed to play Saturday.
Yeah, they're four games are canceled. So
Yeah, so maybe that Saturday game gets moved to the regular FSN. I'm gonna have to send Deutsche an email on that.
Be careful with your wording. He's. I think they're starting to have that conflict in the pod right now in the hockey office with the coaches and the SID and everybody else. I think things are getting tense over there. Careful, Todd. You're walking into a hornet's nest.
All right. Thanks for the heads up on that.
It's very tense over there. I think Deutsche is he's doing a lot of jobs right now.
Yes.
Because there's cuts at the U. So there's a lot of people who got laid off and things like that. And the budget's not quite what it used to be. And you're probably familiar. There's that new stats program that they're all dealing with. It's a disaster. It crashed at the last weekend or something.
They're still using the old system here, but they were running side by side with the new one last week. And I didn't hear anyone swearing too loudly, but
it's probably the mask, the muffler.
Yeah, right. It's hard to tell now.
Yeah. I was trying to coach today and I had my mask on and my mites were not very attentive. It was a very difficult practice today. I probably lowered my mask more than the normal amount of times to voice instructions.
I'm still thinking that Saturday game gets moved. I'm still thinking that might something. I don't think Deutsch is going to respond. We'll see if he does.
He's been working late all the time. Because I'm a U employee, I have access to I've got Deutsche in my DM chat thing for the U. So I can see when he's got the green light on and he's working late. And I can just send him a little, poke. Like, hey, still working, huh? He's like, this is what I do every night. I put my kid to bed, and then I got to put some Gopher hockey stuff to bed.
So I'm totally, there's no reason not to move that game to FSN.
No.
Right.
They're looking for programming.
I mean, they're looking for stuff. I mean, just push it. I mean, why not? They're playing for, well, not quite for first place, but actually, if the Badgers win,
if they win Friday
night, they're playing for first place.
Yeah.
So let's make it happen, FSN.
Todd, have you seen an FSN game on the sports ratings list for those TV ratings?
No, I don't really look into that very much. So I just saw that email that came out this week from BTN about trumpeting their greatest ever ratings for a college hockey game,
which is
last
weird.
week, which was weird. Yeah.
Didn't they have didn't they do the outdoor game all those years ago? One of those outdoor games get on Big Ten Network?
Yeah, probably. But I mean, the audience is just, I mean, you had more of your audience at that game that actually at that game that
they're digging into it.
Would have been, the TV change.
Yep, they're digging into. I'm thinking it's going to happen. I mean, there's no reason not.
Hey, Deutsch is working. See, told you. How it works with young children.
Now when you say, "Hey, Deutsch, come on to the Zoom." Yeah, there's no chance he'd do that.
We'll get with Deutsch. Yep,
we're gonna get Deutsch on the podcast someday after he's long gone. I'd love to get Rovnak on, but no.
He's pretty high strung right now, working for PJ. I know the Gopher Illustrated guys love working with the football office on everything. It's a little high stress over there.
Yeah. Can imagine.
That's why when it's nice when Deutsch did come over to Mariucci, he could like relax and just enjoy the game, talking with everybody. Hey, how's it going? So,
how's it working with Barry? Do you get to talk to him very much?
No.
I mean, Coyle has always been very friendly with me.
Yeah,
like he's easy to work with, and like he sat down with me for a couple interviews for the Athletic,
I mean, I've, a couple things I've, texted him saying, hey, can we talk about this? And he's like, yeah, shoot me a call. But, it's, very formal. Nothing too insightful, but which was why I was like moderately stunned last week at that. He gives a thing at the athletic board, a presentation every month, the directives update or whatever. And it's mostly just, this team's ranked number one. This athlete won the Big Ten cross country, whatever. And but he let out that it looks like we're moving the Big Ten basketball tournament to Indianapolis. It was like, what? Never break news on these things, which it was kind of already out there and everyone assumed that's what was happening, but no one had actually said that yet. So, and that teams that are in that tournament and move on to the NCAAs will just stay there in the hotel and not go back home. So, wow.
Coyle's gotten kind of savvy because he knows that at least KSTP and I are pretty on the region stocks that get posted, and they've started hiding news till the day of the meeting.
Mm-hmm.
So like Lindsey Whalen's contract extension was hidden.
How do they do that? Don't they have to notice the entire agenda a certain number of days in advance?
it's we're approving contracts over $100,000. But at the meeting, they say, we have an updated docket. And we're announcing this contract extension in this docket. And they've gotten pretty good at like hiding that stuff until like the day of the meeting. So unless you're at the meeting and see the presentation or watching, you're not going to pick that up right away. They've done that with some other things too. It's just interesting. I've gotten a little smart, and every day of the meeting I refresh the docket to see what might be new. But obviously the regents get it ahead of time.
Yeah.
And there's a couple of leaks on the U of M regents to certain media outlets right now. So that's fun to watch.
Nice.
There's a battle going. It's kind of fun. I don't know if you have that on the Wisconsin regents.
Not to any great degree. It's a pretty cordial relationship right now between everyone.
We do not have that at the U.
No, it doesn't sound like it.
Sue, Rocha, and Simonson are very combative. They're cut costs, cut administration, don't fund things, and lower tuition and lower admission standards. And they don't work with the president on things.
Yeah.
They just
that doesn't really sound like an agenda that would mesh well with the president.
It's not a higher ed relationship, but it's really, you can just see it if you watch any of the YouTube stuff that they broadcast. Like, you can tell Regent Shu did not collaborate with anyone. Like Steve Sviggum, who used to be the Republican House leader for Minnesota, who you think maybe they might have some understanding. Nope, they don't collaborate beforehand. And Sue just tries to derail things, saying, we don't trust Mark Coyle to do his job. I want to negotiate PJ Flex extension. Wow. It's like, what world does a regent live in where they think that's their responsibility? Obviously, Regent Rocha, Shu, and Simonson think they live in that world, but
wow,
the rest of us don't.
It's all politics.
It's scary.
It's all politics, and so it's just like regular politics. It's become just as polarizing. Just kind of how it is.
Yeah, not to say that there isn't that kind of contentious relationship on other issues with the regents here.
Well, yeah,
but with athletics, I haven't seen that. They actually have their meeting tomorrow that they do every year to go. Every Division I state school takes a turn at some point in the year doing a presentation for the athletic department. So Madison, Milwaukee, and Green Bay at some point give a half-hour presentation about their budget and APR scores and all that kind of stuff that they want to highlight. But and Madison's is up tomorrow, so not expecting there to be anything huge out of that. But it's fun in the every year as part of that document they put out the level 3 and 4 NCAA violations. Or if they had a level 1 and 2, we'd probably hear about them before that.
I haven't found those for the U.
There's really nothing exciting this year. There's usually 1 or 2 that are kind of like, how would you violate that? But nothing on the list this year that was, and it makes sense because they lost half of the recruiting year, from being out on the road. They probably saved themselves some violations there, but
and that just comes back to the NCAA being stupid too. I mean, literally.
I mean, some of the rules are like, okay, you don't want that to be happening. There's one about coach was at had a group of prospective student athletes at a event on campus and was giving a speech to them or something. It's like, okay, that's not, the kids that weren't on official visits or unofficial visits, just kids that were there and they're bringing them in and showing them everything. Yeah, you should be going within the rules on those kind of things because there's pretty well established and easy to follow rules on those. So,
well, I would just think it's goofy. It's like, technically Vigs, a hockey player goes to another hockey player's parents' house. Could they pay for like McDonald's or something like that? There's a lot of weird things like that.
Well, I think there's like a booster aspect to that.
But
there was some weird, I think it was a hypothetical back in when the Badgers used to practice out at the Coliseum. So about 2.5 miles off campus. A lot of them would either had a car or a scooter and, were commuting that way. But someone said if the coach saw one of his players like on the side of the road broken down, he couldn't give them a ride unless there was some other non-player student along with them. It was something weird, and it might be old and have been erased 10 years ago, but
that makes sense because that's how messed up the NCAA is.
Right. That was one of those is like, I get what you're trying to do, that you don't offer benefits,
but use common sense.
But
there's no common sense with a lot of it.
The funniest thing I've witnessed at the U was when the Gophers had an open practice so that a recruit could be in the building to watch practice. Because he was in town for a game for his, team that he was playing on. And he wanted to come watch practice because he was interested in going there, but he wasn't old enough to take an unofficial. So the U made it an open practice and did all the things that you have to do to have that be the official thing. And I was like, oh God, I better show up for this. I want to see what's going on. I was the only other person there. It was the kid, his dad, and me watching practice, but it was open.
Yeah.
And the only reason I did that is I used to work in McNamara Alumni Center, which is, right next to the rink basically. So I could just walk over on my lunch hour and watch. But it's interesting. There's a lot of rules. Greg Powers talking about Matt Nyes the other day for a newspaper article. Can't do that.
Oops.
He's signed to NLI to Minnesota. But there's all kinds of little things that are out there that they can't do. So I'll have to dig in now. You've inspired me again, Todd. I'm now going to look for recruiting violation type things in Minnesota documents because they're probably there somewhere. I just don't know where they are yet. Once I know where they are, I'll keep up to date on them.
They hate you, Viggs.
They do. And I remember
they hated you when you kept asking about attendance numbers and all this stuff.
But Coyle respects it. Like he's like, you know what you're doing. Like you play it fair. Like you give us a chance. you let us speak our side, and we'll let people decide what they think. But
because
you-
they
you
hated your
respect that
scanned
part.
and sold ticket stuff.
It's important things for them to address.
I
you
know.
I mean, everyone can see it when it's on TV. It didn't take my article to point out that things were goofy there.
So I'm looking over this list of Big Ten and NCAA violations. One of them is a football. Prospective student athlete engaged in impermissible game day simulation on an official visit by taking photographs in which he demonstrated technique associated with his sport.
That's become a big thing.
He had a
Right,
football
they
and
do
maybe
this promo.
threw a ball or something.
Well, they do the promo stuff where they put him in a jersey, and so if and when he commits, they can put out this stuff right away with him in the jersey. Yeah.
I remember I took my mini mite team to a Gopher hockey game, and we bought like a group, like
the large
order of
group. I remember
tickets.
you
we
talking
had like
about that.
we had like 80 kids and their parents at the rink, and part of the thing that we got was a locker room tour during warmups. And while we were doing our locker room tour, there was a recruit in the locker room with all the Gopher stuff on, getting a photo shoot.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember Rabs looked at me and he's just like, what is he doing here? I was just like, I'm here with my team. Don't worry. But he never ended up committing. But like for the players, like doing that photo shoot is a thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really important, I think, to the recruits to do it. And
Minnesota, but he saw you and freaked out.
He was upset.
Yeah. Here's another one that it's kind of like, During the fall 2019 semester, parents' signatures were not obtained for multiple student athletes who signed their student athlete statements and drug testing consent forms while under 18. Yeah, violation. During an official visit weekend, 7 prospective student athletes were provided entertainment which exceeded the maximum amount allowable. Now, that one sounds interesting to me. How much are we talking about here?
Yeah, dig into that one, Todd.
Oh,
Yeah,
that could be a serious violation.
That's the one that stood out to me as like, what kind of entertainment are we talking about? And
strip club, down the Beatles, y'all.
How much?
Wow.
Because these are all pretty benign otherwise.
Oh yeah, and of course they're going to be. It's like, and I kind of often wonder, how long does the NCAA last with football?
Yeah,
could it just? I mean,
does the Power 5 just have enough juice to do something of its own?
Something goofy's going to happen, or maybe the NCAA will just cave and do some things, but. Because they're getting sued all over the place for using likeness and all this other stuff, and how much money they make off of kids, even though the kids are getting their education paid. Whew.
There are no easy answers to that.
It's a sticky wicket.
It is.
Yes. Sure.
Yeah, because like the SEC would say, buy NCAA, they'd do it.
Oh yeah.
Almost kind of surprised the SEC doesn't just like branch off and do their own thing. Like they basically did that with football this year. Like no one's going to hold their season. Well, SEC, we'll do it. We don't care. LSU's like, well, basically all of our players have already had COVID. So what's the problem with having our season, huh?
Oh gosh. Oh boy. Free drinks at Blarney, says Tim Hapke.
I think most college kids who know the bartender can get free drinks at Blarney's. That's not a benefit that is exclusive to athletes.
Or underage. I saw it back in the day, back in the mid-2000s.
We had the undercover catching Frazee at Blarney's.
That was at Blarney's, yeah.
Yeah, that was interesting.
I saw the underage kids at the library.
Yep. Library was a very popular spot around 2000, 2001. I had friends who bartended there, and it was quite the scene.
Oh, gosh, yes.
It was a fun time. It helped elevate my perspective on college athletics, being a college grad and seeing that.
How old was Thomas Vanek when he was here? Was he of age? I don't think he was.
I mean, he was close.
He was
But
close.
I do remember my buddy who bartended downtown used to hook up Vanek and his crew with drinks all the time. And when he came back with, I think, Buffalo, he came into the bar, found my friend, gave him $1,000 tip, and walked out.
Wow.
He was just like, "Hey, thank you for everything. Here's $1,000." And he just came in to give the money to him and walked out. I was like, Vanek,
That's
All
cool.
right.
cool
Salute.
dude.
Yep.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, because we all saw it. It happens at every university. Oh, college kids drinking underage? No.
It's gonna happen.
Hard to believe.
Shocked. I'm shocked that there's gambling happening in this establishment.
Exactly.
I still think it's going to be interesting what's going to happen with these Bally Sport networks, guys.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, are they going to be pushing gambling on college broadcasts?
Well, and people have probably made the point in many locations that a lot of these networks also broadcast high school championships, and that's probably even more of a concern than college, because college is kind of
locked down
gotten
really
off
good.
the high horse a little bit. I mean,
Yeah.
because with now going to Vegas for events and things like that, it's starting to loosen up anyway, if not a complete acceptance of gambling culture. But yeah, high school stuff, that's going to be hard to balance on a Bally's network.
Yeah. Plus their logo's red, better than red. Yeah.
I suppose it is.
All right, I'm going to
feel
call
like
it here, guys.
That's gonna be one of those where they're
Brewers.
gonna have their own colors for every, like the Big Ten has their own, like individual school has a BTN logo of their color and everything, but we'll see.
I don't know. Well, I'm going to
Someday we'll have a maroon and gold sponsored Bally's. That's how they're going to solve the budget crisis in athletic departments. They're going to sponsor.
Sinclair is just trying to stay above water right now with doing this.
Yes.
And they've got the future of, like you look at the Wild here, the Wild at the Twins on their networks. Some of those contracts are coming up soon. It's going to be interesting to see what happens, because they're going to come back and say, "Hey, you're not on quite a few networks anymore." It's going to be crazy. There's going to be a reckoning in regional TV coming soon with pro sports.
And that's why pro sports have to be relevant to an extent that they are becoming less of right now, especially you're talking about baseball. I mean, I love baseball, but they got to do something to get people back in that, because they're bleeding TV viewership there.
Everything's bleeding.
Of course, having awful teams in a lot of markets doesn't help.
There's
Teams that just
people playing
have
baseball.
no interest in competing. Yeah. So
There's just not enough people playing baseball anymore. So
that's true.
I mean, I know they're trying with like the RBI program in Minneapolis and things, but it's
Yeah,
complicated.
but you have to have the $300 bat and the $150 glove, and it's like the same stuff we've heard with hockey over the years, right? It's
right.
got to be specialized.
Yep, my kid still has hand-me-down skates and a wood stick, so we're hanging in there for at least.
Oh, it's not going to be long. Dad, give me a real stick.
Hey, not tell Pee-wees.
Then it's going to be broke Vigo.
Well, no one needs a gel hockey stick when they play with a wood one, so it's going to build up that hand strength.
I didn't buy a composite stick until like the last couple of years with the Rubes.
They're pretty fun.
I don't have the skill. I didn't have the skill for it. So I'm like, I'll just stick with the wood. In fact, there it is right there. My Rubes hockey stick is right there. Along with a softball bat that's about 50 years old. It's not mine, but
yeah, I've got a Vinny Lettieri stick and a Jack Glover stick from the last warehouse sale at the U.
You had a
like-
Vinny Lettieri stick that made it to the warehouse and not
I know,
broken?
not broken. It's hard to believe. Luckily, I don't take draws in mini mic practice. I don't
One
have
of
to
the
worry about
four
it
that were
breaking.
left
Right.
out of his stock. Yeah.
He actually kind of liked that. I had a broken stick count on the website.
Mhm.
One of his years he was
I
here.
remember that. Yeah.
And he was like, I'm like, I hope you don't mind. He's like, oh, I just laugh. I think it's funny. I'm like,
I don't
"That's
think there's
easy."
anybody on the team this year who's got a stick problem. So must have just been Vinny.
He was just Vinny. Of course, he was using a different brand though, too, wasn't he?
Yeah.
That's your
Those CCMs are not very durable. Just saying.
All right, boys. I'm gonna call it here.
Thanks,
I
Todd.
gotta
Sorry,
get the
I
video.
can't see you this weekend.
Yeah, it stinks, but hopefully soon.
Hopefully soon. Hang in there. Stay safe.
Yeah, you guys too.
Stay out of
All
the
right.
pubs this weekend. Clean
Yeah,
living.
I'll try. I think
Deadlines.
think I'll
we
be
rarely
okay
see
then.
him come out just because of
Um,
his damn deadlines.
You should stop at Blue Door Pub this weekend though for a to-go order if you have time.
Where is that?
Well, it's on Como. It's on the other side of campus towards like the Como St. Paul area.
Okay.
But they make a lumberjack bluesy, which is like Gouda, cayenne pepper, a little bit of maple syrup. It's awesome.
Oh my cow.
It's so good. And they're just bringing it back this weekend. So
I can hear the arteries. Yep, they're
Yeah, I was
hardening
just
up.
gonna say that.
Thinking about it.
oh, they're so good. So good. I
Mm.
miss it. I try to get once a month. I want them to make it out of the pandemic.
Yeah.
I hope so.
All
All right,